Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down my week number 12 top 5 defenses to stream for the 2024 fantasy football season, as well as a couple of defenses that are in my honorable mentions that you may be able to pick up as well. But before we can get on into my top defenses to stream for week number 12, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. It is also important to note that we've got a bunch of teams on bye this week: the Falcons, the Bills, the Bengals, the Jags, the Saints, and the Jets. So get those players out of your lineup. And it also means there's slimmer pickings on the defenses to stream. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 12 defenses to stream for the 2024 fantasy football season. We begin with my number 1 defense to be streaming on the week, and that is the left hands up. Who are we? The Commanders, going up against the Dallas Cowboys at home in Washington this week. 14.8% rostered on NFL for the Commanders defense, 28.6% on ESPN, and 20% on Yahoo. Now, the Commanders' defense didn't look the best up against the Eagles in Philadelphia on Thursday Night Football last week. Jalen Hurts and friends basically had their way with that defense, and while the Commanders' defense didn't show up, the offense definitely didn't look great either. Jaden Stormy Daniels did not have a good game at all. The Commanders lose 18-26. The Eagles allowed 2 sacks in that game, so the Commanders got to Jalen Hurts twice, and it was 26 points allowed. So again, the Eagles offense largely dominant in that game. Saquon Barkley was running all over them. Jalen Hurts was playing amazing in that game, so the Commanders' defense isn't the best, right? I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and talk about how the Commanders are the next 85 Bears defense. The Commanders' defense deserves the Sukalamink special, right? I'm going to hit them with the Gawk Gawk 9000 special. I don't think the Commanders' defense deserves that. Now, are they maybe better than we gave them credit for early on in the season? I would give them a nod of the cap, right? A tip of the fedora, and say, you know what? Maybe the Commanders' defense is a little bit better than we gave them credit for early on in the season, but they are far from world beaters, right? They're not one of the best defenses in the NFL, but there is a very large difference between playing up against the Philadelphia Eagles offense and the Dallas Cowboys offense that doesn't have Dak Prescott. Now, my assumption here is that it's going to be up against Cooper Rush. Now, maybe tonight up against the Texans, they pull the plug on the Cooper Rush experiment and they go to Trey Lance, who is even more of an abomination. So either way, whether it's Trey Lance, Cooper Rush, doesn't matter. I think that the Commanders defense, again, while they're not all that great, will be able to tee off on the Dallas Cowboys offense. So the Cowboys, they play tonight on Monday Night Football. I don't have the script for the game. I don't know how many sacks the Texans defense is going to get, how many picks they're going to get, if they're going to get fumble recoveries, maybe a touchdown, how many points they're going to allow. But I do know one thing, though: women, they come, they go. I know that the Texans defense is going to have a 5-star feast in this game. So week 10, we'll go back to look at the Cowboys' opponent's defensive stats. Philadelphia Eagles defense, week 10 at the Dallas Cowboys, win 34-6, light work, 3 sacks, 1 INT, 4 fumble recoveries, 6 points allowed. The Eagles defense has been playing so well, so they're definitely on a different pedestal compared to the Commanders defense. But again, you don't need a world beater defense to beat the Dallas Cowboys, especially with Cooper Rush, or even if they roll out Trey Lance out there. The Commanders defense will play up against the Titans next week. So if the Commanders performs here up against the Dallas Cowboys, I definitely think you want to be streaming the Commanders defense again and hold them on your roster up against Will Levis and the Titans next week. Next up, we move to the Miami Dolphins, going up against the Patriots at home in the 305 Dale in Miami. 24.4% rostered on NFL, 74.6% on ESPN, and 70% on Yahoo. So if you play on ESPN or Yahoo, it's going to be definitely a lot harder to get the Dolphins defense. Now, if you play on CBS Sleeper, the rostership percentage of all these defenses is going to be slightly different, though in some cases there might be a major difference, right? 24.4% for the Dolphins on NFL, and then a humongous increase to 74.6% on ESPN. So the Dolphins defense, they did their job up against the Las Vegas Raiders last week. W, 34-19. And sorry that Raiders was a little weak. I tried doing it like multiple times, so for some reason I have like the hiccups, and I don't want to start the hiccups again, so we're not going to scream, Raiders! Oh, we did it better that time. So 3 sacks for the Dolphins defense, 1 INT, 19 points allowed. Now, the Dolphins defense definitely took a step back in Week 11 compared to what we saw Week 10 up against Stafford and the Rams. On Monday Night Football, the Dolphins defense looked like a different beast, and then they kind of took that step back, right, last week up against the Raiders. We kind of know what the Dolphins defense is. They're not some elite defense. They're not some terrible defense. They're more in the middle of the road or lower middle of the road, in my opinion, as a Dolphins fan. I'm just being honest with you. But we just saw the Rams defense that really isn't all that good slice the Patriots up like a Fruit Ninja game, right? They win the game 28-22 in Foxborough. 3 sacks, 1 INT, 1 fumble recovery, 22 points allowed. So the Dolphins should be able to hold the Patriots under 24 points. With Calais Campbell, Zach Zealer, they should be able to get a couple of sacks on Drake May. And ultimately, if Drake May makes a rookie mistake, just throws the ball directly to Jalen Ramsey or something like that, which I could see happening, they get a pick, and they have pretty much a similar performance to what they had last week up against the Raiders. Again, they didn't beat the Raiders down. They didn't blow their back out, right? The Dolphins defense didn't stand super tall in that game. We got like a pick 6 or something, but again, 3 sacks, 1 INT, 19 points allowed there. Definitely a solid start this week up against the Patriots. Next up, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the New York Football Giants in MetLife. 27.5% rostered on NFL, so if you couldn't get the Dolphins, then 9% on ESPN, 11% on Yahoo for the Buccaneers. Now, there's been a quarterback change in New York with the Giants. They're benching Danny Dimes, Danny Fumbles, Daniel Jones, and they're going with the Italian Stallion, Tommy DeVito, Tommy Cutlets. He went to high school near where I grew up, so shout out to my main man, Tommy. I think Tommy might be slightly better than Daniel Jones. Maybe he brings a jolt to this offense, right? He hits him with the defibrillator from Battlefield 3, right? Revives them, give them a little revive, and they play a little bit better. But ultimately, it's not like Tommy DeVito is this stud quarterback that's been chilling on the bench, getting groomed behind Daniel Jones, right? It's like Alex Smith and Pat Mahomes. No, that's not what this is. We know what Tommy DeVito is. He's maybe slightly better than Daniel Jones sometimes. Worse other times. Now, again, since it's his first game out, you kind of just assume that he's going to play halfway decent. But I do think that the Buccaneers defense, while they're not world beaters, they're not the Buccaneers defense that had Tom Brady winning a Super Bowl in Tampa, but ultimately they're good enough to get to Daniel Jones, or not Daniel Jones anymore, but Tommy DeVito. Again, DeVito's far from a stud. I'm going to be rooting for DeVito. I like DeVito. It's fun. It's cool. But ultimately, it's not like DeVito's the second coming of Mahomes or something. So the Bucs were on bye in Week 11, so we got to go back to Week number 10 for their defensive stats. The Buccaneers defense in Week 10 versus the Niners. They lose 20-23, but honestly, the defense played well in that game, especially considering that the 49ers offense has been rock solid off a honey pack as of recent. 3 sacks, 1 fumble recovery, 23 points allowed. Now, the Giants, just like the Bucs, were on bye last week, so we got to head to Germany, hop on the plane back to Week number 10 for the Giants' last opponent's defensive performance. Now, again, this was up against Daniel Jones. It's a little bit different. Daniel Jones to DeVito, but it's not really apples to oranges. It's kind of like apples to apples. Carolina wins, overtime game. Bryce Young wins. Pretty cool, right? Just watching the Panthers win. Shout out to Bryce Young, 20-17. The Panthers defense, 2 sacks, 2 INTs, 1 fumble recovery, 17 points allowed. Again, maybe DeVito has this crazy jolt and drops his nuts into the mouth of the Buccaneers defense, but again, I don't really see that happening. I think the Buccaneers defense will hold him at bay, and I think the Buccaneers defense is a fine start this week. The thing is, when there are 6 teams on bye, the Falcons, the Bills, the Bengals, the Jags, the Saints, the Jets, it is a lot harder to find a bunch of defenses that I'm uber confident in that are actually widely available, right? We're going to be talking about some honorable mention defenses that might be available in some of your guys' smaller leagues, but in your 12-team league, the Buccaneers are probably available. They're going up against DeVito. You're going to want to pick them up and play them. So the Bucs also have a wet dream of a schedule after this. Week 13 in Carolina up against the Panthers. Week 14 up against the Raiders. Week 15 up against the Chargers in LA, which is a fuck no, baby matchup. You're not playing them there. You avoid them. But then week 16 up against Dallas in Jerry's World, and week 17 up against the Panthers at home in Tampa. So the schedule going forward is solid for the Buccaneers. And again, I think up against DeVito, they should have a decent game. Next up, we got the Chicago Bears going up against the cold like Minnesota Vikings. 80.2% roster on NFL, but 38.7% on ESPN, 51% on Yahoo. The Bears defense week 11 versus the Packers, they lose 19-20 because their kicker's field goal got blocked in what would be a game as a Chicago Bears fan that would have me jumping off of the roof, and instead of through like a burning table that the Bills fans jump through, it would be like jumping onto one of those spike trap things that they have in Fortnite. So the Bears defense, 1 sack, 1 INT, 20 points allowed. The Bears are owned by the Packers, so didn't really expect the Bears defense to tee off there. It's not like the Bears defense is the Bears defense of the past. So the Titans defense, week 11, up against the Vikings, they lose 13-23, but they have 2 sacks, 1 fumble recovery, 23 points allowed. The reason why we're streaming up against the Vikings is Sam Darnold has really taken a turn in the wrong direction. Now, Sam Darnold is not terrible. He's not like this garbage can quarterback. It's not like watching Zach Wilson in the past. It's not like watching Deshaun Kaiser, Jamarcus Russell, the guy that is on TV that used to play on the Cowboys or used to play on the Lions, Dan Orlovsky, and he ran backwards out of the end zone, right? It's not some bottom of the barrel, complete and utter awful trash, straight up dookie quarterback play by Sam Darnold, but he also hasn't played as well. And it wouldn't shock me if the Bears defense that does have players that, again, it's not a bad defense. Like, if they got to Sam Darnold multiple times, if Sam Darnold makes multiple mistakes, because, again, we have seen Sam Darnold play not so hot as of recently. So the Bears defense are definitely a defense that I would be looking to pick up this week if they were available. Again, probably not on NFL, but on ESPN or on Yahoo, you should be able to pick up the Bears. Final defense before we get on into the honorable mentions is the Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. 15.2% rostered on NFL, 2% on ESPN, and 4% on Yahoo. But before we talk about the Arizona Cardinals some more, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our partner over at Underdog. If you're brand new to Underdog, sign up using promo code Notorious, or click on the link in the video description or in the pinned comment. You will get your free pick, which tonight, Monday night, football, CJ Stroud, higher than half a total yard. You match that with any player on the Cowboys or any player playing next week in the NFL in week number 12, technically this week for the sake of today's video, then you'll receive 3 times what you put in your pick'em. If you do multiple other picks, then the payout will be higher. Plus, not only do you get the free pick, you also get a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Nick, I'm watching this video on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and the CJ Stroud game already happened. The Texans already played the Cowboys. Then if you sign up using promo code Notorious, you will either get an NBA player higher than half a total point or a different NFL quarterback higher than half of a total yard. Again, if both your picks hit, you'll get 3 times your entry fee. If you put in other picks into your pick'em, you'll receive a higher payout. Again, promo code Notorious to get your free pick, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So back to the Cardinals versus the Seahawks. This is a very interesting matchup because we have 2 teams that, in my opinion, are very, very hot and cold, right? You get some games out of the Cardinals where they're hotter than the fajita plate at Jose Tejas, and you get other games where they're colder than an ice bath that Kevin Hart goes into and cold as balls, right? The Seahawks, the same exact thing. It really feels like none of these teams really have a mid-game, right? It's either balls to the wall, from the windows to the wall, to the sweat drip down my balls, or a game that is so fucking gross you wish you didn't have eyes to watch it, right? Now, the Cardinals defense has really been playing well recently. I will give them a lot of credit. They've had back-to-back games with 9 or fewer points allowed. Now, the Cardinals were on bye last week, so we got to go back to week 10 up against the Jets. Aaron Rodgers. We all know how that game went. The Cardinals embarrassed them. They hit the fucking Fortnite take the L dance on their grave, 31-6. And the Cardinals defense and offense has been playing very well since Black Ops 6 came out. So maybe that narrative about Kyler being shit when the new Call of Duty comes out might be more about the fact that Cliff Kingsbury was shit after Call of Duty came out. Maybe Kyler is not the one grinding COD. Maybe it's Mr. Cliff who's playing double XP weekend before the game. Kind of saw that with Jaden Daniels last week, but I digress. The Cardinals defense looked good up against the Jets. 3 sacks, 1 fumble recovery, 6 points allowed. Again, back-to-back Michael Jordan 96-97 games with 9 or fewer points allowed. Now, I don't want to blow too much smoke up the metaphorical ass of the Cardinals defense because, again, I think the Seahawks could show up. But again, the Seahawks are a very bipolar team, very dicey. The 49ers defense got to Seattle a bunch, 17-20. And honestly, Seattle only really took the lead because Bosa exited the game. 4 sacks, 1 INT, 20 points allowed. Now, after going up against the Seahawks, the Cardinals faced the Vikings in Minnesota. Arizona has been hot recently, so we may be able to play them again if the Vikings don't look the best up against the Bears. So again, the Cardinals are more of a desperation play, but there is definitely upside there up against the Seahawks offense because, again, they do look so spotty. Like a fucking Dalmatian game in and week out. Now we got the honorable mentions. Now these are defenses that are probably owned in your league. Some of them might not be, but these are all defenses that I love. And I decided to mention the ones that are owned in like a majority of leagues because there's always people in the comments, Nick, don't you like the Broncos this week? Or don't you like the Vikings? The Vikings have a really good matchup. Yeah, but the Vikings defense are owned in like 99.9% of leagues. But here's the honorable mentions. We got the Broncos up against the Raiders. Why do I like them? Because the Broncos defense is very good. The Raiders offense is very shit. The Vikings versus the Bears. The Bears defense, or the Bears offense, definitely look better without Shane Waldron. But the Vikings defense is good. And we know Caleb can make some very, 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 very dumb mistakes. And we know the play calling at times can be very, 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 very bad. Steelers versus the Browns. I love Jameis, but Jameis throws picks. Chiefs versus the Panthers. Chiefs defense didn't look good up against the Bills. They got face fucked, but the Bills offense, much different than the Panthers offense. The Texans versus the Titans. Anytime you stream up against Will Levis, that is a amazing matchup. Lions at Colts. Anthony Richardson pulled a rabbit out the hat, but we kind of know what Anthony Richardson is. He's very spotty. He's another one of these guys. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he went crazy against the Lions. I wouldn't be surprised if he completely shit the bed. But the Lions defense has been good, so I don't think that's really the greatest recipe for some success there. It's not a sugar, spice, and everything nice matchup. And then we got the Eagles versus the Rams, like we talked about when we talked about the Eagles defense. In today's video, the Eagles defense has been playing so much better as of recently. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. While you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure you leave a like on today's video. It'd help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. Make sure you guys get your free pick on Underdog, promo code Notorious, to get CJ Stroud higher than half of a total yard plus a first time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Again, remember, if you're watching this after Tuesday and you claim your free pick, it'll either be an NBA player higher than half a total point or a different NFL quarterback higher than half a total yard. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. Like I already said, check out one of the videos on the screen if you haven't seen it already. I love you guys long time. Thank you guys for all the support this season. It means the world to me. Have a great one, and we'll be back a little bit later with the waiver wire ads. As always, have a great one. Good boy.